Welcome to the Lightning 50 e-commerce growth hacking podcast. Want to turn your business into a cash-generating machine? You've come to the right place. This bite-sized podcast reveals the technology secrets fueling the world's fastest-growing online brands. And for our host, we have retail industry expert Caroline Baldwin. She'll be sharing her own wisdom and experience as she interviews high-growth e-commerce brands to uncover their secret tech tools and tips for success. Let's get started on supercharging your growth. Here's Caroline.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Lightning 50 e-commerce growth hacking podcast. I'm Caroline Baldwin. I'm a business journalist who is delighted to have you join myself and my special guest for this extended episode to talk about women in business. Today, I have Dr. Cameka Smith. She is the founder of the digital platform, The Boss Network. Dr. Cameka, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me, Caroline. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. So, Dr. Cameka, maybe we can start with finding out exactly what is the Boss Network. What is this network that you've created?
Yeah, so the Boss Network is actually a digital platform that I created almost 15 years ago, which I just can't even believe that. Yeah, so back in 2009, I was a budding entrepreneur myself and based here in Chicago and just trying to figure out the landscape of entrepreneurship, as a woman of color, because nobody in my family had a business. And so I really wanted to figure out how to actually, create my own brand. At the time, I was running a event planning and marketing company. And so I just really wanted to grow my business and, get more clients and, just kind of create my own legacy. I had been laid off of my job of over 10 years in Chicago public schools. And if you remember that time, it was a lot of people getting laid off during that season. I think it was like one of the recessions that we went through back in 2008, 2009. So I wasn't, I didn't really feel a way about it. It was more so like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to work on my business. I always felt like I would go back to work. It just never happened. And so, I set out to grow my brand. And as I was talking to other entrepreneurs and learning from other business women and men, I saw this theme of women saying wow, I wish that we could actually come together and have these conversations and support each other. And I'm thinking to myself okay, well, I'm an event planner. That's my company. I do marketing. Maybe I can just create a series of events just for women of color to come and talk about entrepreneurship, career development. How do we grow as business women? And I launched my first BOSS series, which is an acronym. It stands for Bringing Out Successful Sisters, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring these successful women together to have conversations and support each other and figure out how do we, just push forward in our businesses. And I think within a couple months, women were emailing me saying, how do we join BOSS? And I was like, join? These are just events that I'm doing. We were having 200, 300 women at these events. I mean, it was really incredible to see, but I think it was the perfect timing, and so for me, I think that was the age of social media around that time. So, Facebook was around, but Twitter was just coming out, Instagram. And so I really, really utilized social media and digital marketing to, reach my audience. And so that's how I grew the brand. And so, within 6 months, I launched the digital platform, thebossnetwork.org, as a space initially just to give women an opportunity to connect beyond the events, right? Because I felt okay, these women are connecting at the events, they're having a great time. But if I can give them a safe space where they actually can talk about these issues, they can, learn about, growing a business and growing a brand and also share best practices and strategies, that would be really cool. I kind of just stole the Facebook model. And, yeah. And so within, I think 6 months of being a digital platform, we were listed in Forbes magazine as one of the top websites for women. And I really credit that to social media because in addition to me launching the platform, I took a very big interest in social media and being able to have conversation and storytelling because there were so many different women starting businesses. And a lot of our stories were very similar with some of the struggles we were facing, some of the issues we were coming across, some of the barriers we were faced with. And being able to have a space to talk about those things, I started this early Twitter chat called Boss Chat. And we just started having these conversations on social media. And that's how Forbes found out about our brand. And that's how so many other women found out. And we were able to create a national footprint with the Boss Network and within a year of launching. So it was pretty incredible.
That's such a fantastic story. And I find it so interesting that you say you started off in the public school sector. So surely mentorship must have been in your blood at that point, right? So is that what the Boss Network is fundamentally about mentoring and lifting up women?
You know what, Caroline, you're so on point with that because, even as an educator, I come from Chicago, born and raised here. I'm from the west side of Chicago, which is, a pretty impoverished area, a lot of opportunity there. And so growing up, I didn't really see a lot of people, doing well. I didn't see a lot of success. And so my mother, she was very much, trying to expose us to things outside of our community. And so she had a job on the north side, which is a much more economically flourishing part of the city. And so she would, made it where we had to go to school up north. And so me having to get on 2 trains and 2 buses every single day to go to school, it just expanded my mind. I'm looking at all these professionals going to work. I'm looking at different people with their briefcases and having business calls. And as a young 14-year-old girl, it was just like, wow, I want to be just like that. I want to be successful. And so I knew that I wanted to have a job that impacted people. I initially thought I wanted to be an attorney because I love to talk and debate, but I found out very early that I was more interested in serving people because my grandfather was a pastor, my mother was a pastor, and we, served our community. We, fed the homeless. We did a lot of give back stuff. And so I knew I wanted to impact women and children in a way, and just communities, my community in particular. And so I decided to go into education. So I got my master's degree in education. And I went back to the neighborhood where I grew up in. And I really want to show those young people that it does not matter where you come from. It's about where you want to go. And I feel like that exposure that my mom gave me at a very young age and the opportunities she gave me outside of my community is what helped me want more. And so when I launched Boss, it was the same premise. It's like, okay, we want to be entrepreneurs. We have this drive to create these businesses, but we just don't know what that looks like. And so if I can expose these women to successful women, if I can expose them to strategies and resources, then there's really no excuse for them not to, pursue their dreams. And, almost 15 years later, we've impacted millions of women. We have over 200,000 women within our community. And it really, really started from a premise of wanting to give women access to mentors and expose them to what a successful Black female entrepreneur looked like.
It's such an inspiring story. And as you say, you're now reaching 200,000 women globally, which is just such a huge achievement. And you touched on how social media really helped you kind of get off the ground and get noticed by Forbes and the like. What's helped you get from that initial area to scaling to 200,000?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always been the type of person that wanted more, right? So once I created the brand, it wasn't my initial start to create a brand for Black women entrepreneurs. I was trying to build a business for myself, but because I am a giver and I am a person who is very community driven and leadership, is important to me. I felt like, okay, if I'm going to grow and I'm going to be able to create a business for myself, I want to be able to share this with my community so that other people can grow as well. And they can learn some of the same things that I'm learning. And so it just was this journey of constantly learning, right? So I'm keeping up with the trends that are happening. I self-taught myself how to build a website. I self-taught myself how to do digital marketing. I, self-taught myself how to, just create, strategies, and events became kind of like a big part of my brand because I wanted to get these women face to face. Social media was great, but I knew that face-to-face connection would just really help solidify the brand and create this authenticity that you just don't get online all the time. And so my second year in business, I went on a tour. I don't ask me why, Caroline, what I was thinking, but I just had all these women that I connected with online. And I wanted to see them, I wanted to meet them in person. And so I went on my first 4-city tour in the fall of 2010. And when I tell you, it was the most beautiful nightmare. It was such a challenge, but it was also such an amazing experience. But what it taught me was, because people always say, if you can make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere because it's a very tough city. It's a blue collar city. So, not a lot of entrepreneurship, of course, I think every city is building and we have grown a lot, but in the beginning, it was definitely a blue collar city. So, it wasn't a lot of support. So I really made sure that I created a national brand because I needed that support to keep going. I needed women to believe in me and believe in this brand. So I wanted to have a global footprint, and social media allowed for me to do that. And so I knew that this brand was much bigger than just my city, my town. And so being able to leverage, the things that I was learning, and then surrounding myself around other women who were just so smart and so successful. I think the beauty of the Boss Network was it came at a time where these communities did not exist. I mean, you have so many now, but 2009, almost 15 years ago, there just were not these type of communities. And so because I started so early and I was so professional about what I was doing. I mean, I come from education, I come from teaching, I come from program development. And so I knew how to create, something of value. I'm an event planner by trade. And so I knew how to create things that, drew people in. I used to do it with my students. I was like, okay, give them a little carrot and then you got to, bring them in and you feed them the education that they want. And so I always knew that, entertainment and things that were fun and exciting would draw people in, and then you hit them over the head with the education and with the knowledge. And so that was important for me to make sure that it was exciting, it was authentic, it felt real and safe, and it just wasn't women talking over their heads. Because when you say boss, that's a very strong statement. It's like, okay. And I had a lot of women tell me, I really want to join your network, but I don't think that I'm a boss. And I was very much like, boss is a mindset. It is a spirit that you carry, like I'm not a boss. Like I'm just starting out myself, but I know that I have the capabilities and I have the insight and the will and the drive to become the boss that I want to be. And so that was like early on our mission and our vision. And I think that women were drawn to that and felt a sense of pride in saying that I am a boss. I can't see myself as a Black woman being an entrepreneur, leaving a legacy, creating a business. And I do believe that the Boss Network has, just the work that we've done has really set the stage for so many other communities and so many other brands that were birthed and so many other businesses that were birthed because this brand said that you can do it as a Black woman. You can be a successful entrepreneur.
Fantastic. So a lot of determination to get where you are today. I would love to quiz you a little bit about the business landscape at the moment and what you're seeing, at the coalface. So more and more women are obviously launching businesses every day, but I'd love to understand what are the issues that are prohibiting women and especially Black women from scaling those businesses and getting them to that next level.
Absolutely. So as you know, women are leading the charge when it comes to entrepreneurship. Black women is the largest group of entrepreneurs in the country, starting businesses, 10 times the national rate of any other group. But the reality is we still have so many barriers. And so as quick as we're growing businesses, they are failing because we don't have the resources and the access to capital that we need to succeed and scale and grow. And so, that's why, I think, once COVID hit, it really took an opportunity to kind of pull out what I say the blinders off of what was happening. A lot of stuff around George Floyd and racial injustice. People start to really look at everything that was happening around, these communities of color and saying, why aren't these resources being available? Why are people angry? Why are people rioting? Why are people, going out there and saying that, this is not right? And it stemmed from something, horrible as injustice, but this injustice, it filters off in so many different areas of the landscape of our country, from politics to healthcare, to business, to, policing, and so when you have these situations, it affects everyone in these communities. And so I think for me, it was a light bulb to say, I have been doing this for 10 years. Once COVID hit, I can no longer just inspire women and motivate them because I've done that for 10 years and they are ready to go. But what else is there? How do I keep them going forward? And so I knew that it was important for me to try to figure out how to get access to capital. And so, I was, grateful to see so many brands and companies, put out statements and press releases about wanting to support the Black community, about wanting to, help break down some of those barriers. And let's be honest, a lot of it was, the talk of the times, I'll say that. You didn't see a lot of people really come through on those commitments, which was very unfortunate. And some of it is still happening. It's still, filtering off from, what happened 2-3 years ago. But I was really, I would say lucky to have some partners that I worked with that really understood the challenges and wanted to help, and one of those people were my partners at Sage. When I decided to launch the Boss Impact Fund, which is a fund to try to support 500 Black women entrepreneurs in getting capital to grow their businesses, they were the first company that said yes to $1 million investment. And so it really, for me, gave me life and breath during a time where, everybody was struggling to keep their businesses open, and for me as a leader, it was more so, of course, I'm concerned about my business, but I'm also looking at all the women that I'm serving within my community who are struggling, who are reaching out to me and saying, hey, do you know about any grants or any opportunities to get funding so that I can keep my doors open, because I'm struggling right now. And of course, many of you know about the conversation around PPP loans, and a lot of minorities, a lot of people, the loans were supposed to be created for, did not get access to those loans. And so it just was a really uphill battle. And I just took it up on myself to say, you know what, as a leader, this is my time to really step out there and start to have a conversation and say, how can we change what's happening and knock down those barriers? And together with my partners at Sage, we've been able to do that with this Boss Impact Fund and our Invest in Progress grant program.
So how does the two fit in together, and how does it work in a practical sense?
Yeah. So initially when I launched the Boss Impact Fund, it was really based off of all of these brands creating commitments. I had already, been a company that worked with a lot of brands that wanted to reach, women of color, because we spend trillions of dollars in the marketplace. We're probably the biggest consumers in the world. And so I knew that, going into this business, as much as I was creating a community for Black women, I was also creating an opportunity for brands to reach this demographic and help to kind of bridge that gap of resources. And so I worked with, Prudential for 6 years. I worked with JP Morgan Chase. I've worked with McDonald's and Comcast and so many other Fortune 100 brands to bring resources to my community. But I knew that at this point and at this stage, I had to level up and try to figure out how to get capital, because Black women make up less than 1% of companies that receive VC capital and funding. And then we also have so many barriers when it comes to getting traditional loans. There's a lot of discrimination that happens. And so you add all those things up. How can a business succeed? I don't care how much vision you have. If you don't have capital, you're only going to go so far. But then also within that, also giving these women access to mentors and also ways to learn how to market and grow their business, because we do have something called social media now and digital marketing where you can go directly to your customers, right? So we wanted to hit them over the head with, hey, you're going to get the money, the marketing, and the mentorship. Like those were my trifecta of issues that I felt like women of color face that we could possibly help and support. And that's what the Boss Impact Fund set out to do. And with that, we personally pitched to individual companies to say, hey, partner with us to create a grant program. Right under the Boss Impact Fund, we would create these individual grant programs to reach women, and we can work with your company to figure out, what are some of your initiatives around corporate responsibility, around diversity and equity, and we can create something that's really beautiful. And so our first founding partner was Sage, and we decided to title it the Invest in Progress grant, because for me, it felt like we talk about change in this country and in this world, but until we actually have progress, there can be no change. Change does not happen overnight. There has to be progression. And so our Invest in Progress grant was meant to kind of talk about not just providing these grants, but also starting to have the conversation of why it's important to invest in Black businesses, because it helps our entire country. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our country. And if we are not funneling funds and support into these communities, then this is when you have crime, you have uneducation, you have all the other issues that come out of people being in economic poverty.
No, that's so true. You saying that small businesses are the lifeblood. We absolutely love small, medium, large, but specifically the SMEs in the Growth Hacking podcast. And in fact, in our podcast on the Lightning 50 list in the US, especially in the top 10, female-led businesses were really dominating in that space. Yeah. So I'd love to get your kind of take on this. What are female-led, and especially we look at e-commerce entrepreneurs quite a lot in the Lightning 50. What are they doing in this world that you think is really leading to such success? Because it was really incredible when we saw those results.
Yeah, of course, as a leader of a community, I've done so much research, and we, survey our community all the time to kind of see what the trends are. And so we know that e-commerce has become a big, entryway into entrepreneurship for a lot of entrepreneurs, because they can go directly to their customers. They don't have to go and get a traditional loan. They might not get access to a grant, but they have a product that they can sell that their customers love and they can respect, and it's a quality product or good, then they can go directly to their customers, through social media, through Etsy, through, e-commerce platforms, and they can actually create packaging, create a website. I mean, it's so many tools that are right at their fingertips that can, they can do it as solopreneurs, and not to have a huge infrastructure or a huge team to make that happen. And that's what I've seen a lot of women do. There was a young lady, I remember some years ago, who created a brand called the Crayon Case, and she was an influencer online. So she created a following from just being funny and, doing all these amazing things on social media. And she saw that she had this huge following. So just like any smart, entrepreneur would, it's like, I need to create a brand and reach, and sell something to my audience. They love me, right? Because people buy from people first, then product, right? And so she saw an open market. And so she was a makeup artist and a hairstylist. So she launched this crayon case, which was a makeup case. And she told her audience, if every one of you, I think she had 1 million followers. And she's like, if everyone buys this crayon case for $1, I'll be a millionaire. And in one day, her brand became a multi-million-dollar brand for social media, from, digital marketing, from e-commerce. And so I think that is what we're seeing. I think a lot of women of color are seeing, this glass ceiling. And just women in general, right? We see this glass ceiling in corporate America, and we're striving really hard. We go to college, we get the degrees. I mean, I have 4 degrees, right? 2 doctorates, a master's and a bachelor's degree, but we see that there's still not a lot of opportunity for us. And there's this ceiling of where you can go. And we're looking online and we're seeing all these other businesses being created with, our white male counterparts or others. And we're saying, why can't we do that? We have the same vision, we have the same drive, we have the same creativity. And so women are saying, you know what, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to be my own boss. And they're going out there and creating these brands. And because they're genius already, they're of course they're going to be successful because they have the drive. They have the, the hard work built inside of them to do the work. So it's not a sense of, I want to be given something. It's like, okay, I want to create something of my own. And that's what you see now that's happening.
When you combine that, being able to pass on some of that confidence along with the magic that digital marketing has given us, you can do these, the word side hustle is just so prevalent. You can be bringing up a family, but still creating that product in your back bedroom, doing a couple of Instagram stories. And then suddenly, if you've got a really great character and something catches on,
automation,
or the product's amazing, there is no glass ceiling, is there? And it's just, it's a really interesting world at the moment, but there's still a lot to be done, a lot of mentorship as well. I'd love to maybe look at what do you think the challenges are going forward for both e-commerce merchants and just generally entrepreneurs this year? Obviously we've come out of a pretty rough couple of years. 2023 is not looking all sun and daisies. So what do you think the big challenges that are going to be this year?
I think, and it's unfortunate that, the challenges have been the challenges forever, right? It just, sometimes it feels like there's new barriers created once we find a inroad, right? It's like, we don't get access to capital. We don't get access to just traditional loans. Okay, well then we're going to use e-commerce and we're going to use digital marketing. We're going to go directly to our customers. Okay, now social media is going to make it where the analytics are off, and you can't even reach your customers because you got to pay so much money to even reach your customers. And so they create this barrier. So there's always this challenge of, creating an inroad. And then once you get there, then there's another barrier being put in front of you. Right. And so I think for women and women of color in general, there's going to always be this opportunity to how do we continue to grow our brands in the face of adversity, in the face of, barriers and things that are meant to kind of hold us back. And that's unfortunate, but it's just, this what we see happening. And so I think that we just have to, stay creative, stay on top of what's happening in the trends in the marketplace, especially as it relates to digital marketing, e-commerce, social media, because that to me has been just such a great way for us to reach our customers. I mean, I've built a brand that reaches, probably millions of women, literally sitting in my home office, and touring around the world because of social media. And so, we have to make sure that we're creating our brands in a way that we can protect it. So a big part of me has always been about building my email list, being able to say, okay, if one day there is no Instagram, there is no Twitter, I still have access to my customers, right? So we got to just be smart in how we're doing business so that we can continue to leverage and scale and grow our brands.
You just can't take your foot off the gas, can you? Because there's always going to be a change. There's always going to be some other boulder to overcome. You've just, when you start to think, things are doing really well, then Instagram throws in an analytics change, and it's just, it's heartbreaking. But I suppose when you're part of that community, like the Boss Network or something similar, being able to lean on people in that community and share tips and advice on how to overcome those challenges is really important.
Oh my God, it's beyond important. And I will tell you, we launched our first round of grants last year, and we were able to invest in, just with the SAGE program, we were able to invest in 35 Black women entrepreneurs. And within my entire Boss Impact Fund last year, we invested in 48 Black women. And that, if you think about the numbers, less than 40 Black women have even got $1 million investment. So for my company, a small business, a Black female founder, to say I've invested in 48 Black women, that is just, unprecedented. So I don't take that lightly. I feel like I'm very blessed in that respect to be able to do that. And this year we're going to invest in probably another 50, Black owned businesses. And so, we had a meeting last night with our first round of grant winners, because we also gave them a full year scholarship to our Boss Business University. And that was important for me because I wanted to give them access to my community so they can always have a safe place to be able to share advice and learn and get resources beyond just the funding that they received. And so we were reconnecting with those women last night, and oh my God, it was very emotional because, they were just talking about how, even though, this is a $10,000 grant, it's not like the millions of dollars that, our counterparts get for their businesses, but it came at a time where they needed a push. They needed just something to help them. And these are small businesses. So they're in the first 5 years, so $10,000 change their lives, and because it happened to me when I first started the Boss Network. I think I was in year 3, and I was, helping one of my founders pitch at a competition. And she actually won a $10,000 grant through a company called The Cash Flow and Black Enterprise Magazine. And because I was there supporting her, and I threw her like a celebration, which people thought was really weird. They were like, how did you even know she was going to win? But I knew she was going to win because she was amazing, right? And I just felt like even if she didn't win, she made it to the top 3, and the fact that she made it to the top 3, that was a win for us. We were coming to Atlanta from Chicago, and we were there to celebrate her win, regardless if she won the grand prize. And it just happened to be that she did win the grand prize. And so the funders, and that's why one of my models, my team always laughs at me, one of my biggest models is those that show up, go up. That is a model that I use. And I taught my students that when I was in education. I teach the women that I serve and work with, because you never know what opportunities come when you show up. And because I showed up there to support her and I did what I do best, one of the investors said, we want to give you a $10,000 grant just for the work that you're doing. I didn't have to pitch for it. I didn't have to do anything, and that was just me showing up for myself. Showed up for me. And I just told myself in that moment, when I get the opportunity, I'm going to invest $10,000, because it really just gave me so much momentum. It gave me so much drive. Somebody believed in my brand enough to say, here's some money to keep going. And I knew if I could do that for other women, it could change their lives and change so many lives, because somebody invested $10,000 in me and it helped me to impact millions of women. Right. So when I invest in one Black woman, it trickles down. You know what I'm saying? So it's just how it goes. And so we as women, that's what we have to do for each other. And so my task to the women that I invested in was, when your businesses get to a level where you can give back, I want to see you all invest in the Boss Impact Fund and give out a grant to someone, because that's how we pay it forward.
Pay it forward, pay it forward. Oh, Dr. Cameka, you're so inspiring. We're coming to the end of our conversation, but I've got a few quick fire questions for you here. Yeah. So in the spirit of International Women's Day, and we've been talking about amazing women, obviously, who's been your biggest supporter, and which fantastic women out there should we be keeping an eye on that you think are going to go places?
Oh my goodness. So, I would be remiss to not say that my most inspirational person is my mom. It's crazy. This, if we think about the last couple of years, our country has been through so much. We've had so many losses. We've watched so much stuff happening, and we get a front row seat to it because of social media. And it's just heart wrenching. And it's challenging, because even through all of these things that we're facing, we have to continue to move forward. And that can be very challenging, but I think that we have created a sense of empathy that I didn't see before in the world. And it's very heartwarming for me. But my mom, she transitioned this month last year, right during my launch of my grant program. And it was one of the most exciting times of my life and my business. And one of the most, I can't even put it into words, the hardest time of my life personally, losing my mom. But I realized in that moment that this is life, and that we all will transition. And that, my mother, she made this space in the world for me by creating all these opportunities, by allowing me to dream big, by creating this space for me to grow as a young Black girl in Chicago, and exposing me to so many different things. And so, it wasn't by chance that, once I created this huge program in my business, that she transitioned, because it was like all the things that she needed to teach me up until that point, she had taught me. And so I try to reflect on that, because she was very young. She was a minister. She was, in her 60s. But you know what? I felt like my mom lost her mom when she was 2 years old, you know? And so I had 40 something years with her. So I had to just say, you were really blessed. And so I take that wisdom and all the things that I learned from her as a person who grew up with no mom. You know, she came from Mississippi. She came here with nothing, and she created a life and children that, you know, 2 of us have doctorates. You know, all 3 of us are entrepreneurs, you know, and so that is just incredible. So she will always and forever be my hero. And then, of course, you know, there's women that I always looked up to when I did not have mentors, you know, like Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama and, you know, Melly Hobson from Chicago, who are, you know, just incredible business women. And they just really inspired me to say that I can do this. And so that to me has been a blessing. And of course, all the women in the Boss Network, these are the women that inspire me. These are the women that I look to, and I'm just like excited about what they're doing. And, you know, you can definitely visit thebossnetwork.org to see and follow us on social media to see some of their stories and the incredible businesses that they're creating. And that is what wakes me up in the morning and gives me joy to keep moving forward.
Great answers. And we love to talk about the technology on the Lightning 50 podcast. So what technology does the Boss Network lean on, and what's the tech that you guys could not live without to run this amazing organization?
Yeah. So you know what? I'm the queen of automation. I feel like for any small medium-sized business, especially solopreneurs, you've got to have automation. You have to have systems in place so that you can do your work effectively without burning yourself out, because it's such an easy place to be in as an entrepreneur. And so, you know, from a social media standpoint, I lean on Hootsuite. It's one of the platforms that I use that I can schedule. My team can schedule all of our posts. That way we're not having to be online all day, but our content is getting out there to our community, right? I am huge on email marketing because I want to communicate with my community. I want to talk to them. So Constant Contact is one of the tools that we use that helps us. We're all about creating, you know, these amazing, you know, images that inspire women, and also just, you know, collateral that gives them information about what we're doing. So Canva is one of the tools that I use. From a project management standpoint, I have an amazing team. Asana is one of the project management tools that I use that, you know, helps my team and I stay productive and on task. And Google Drive, I would say everything Google, you know, from Google Meet to Zoom to, you know, all those, you know, digital platforms that allow us to kind of have these face-to-face moments, especially in a time where, you know, as an event planner, everything was shut down and I could not do events. Zoom and Google Meet, what gave me a way to have a platform to actually reach my community and have these conversations that we're having right now. So yeah, those are some of the systems and tools that I live by.
That's a brilliant set of tools there for you.
And I will have to say, last but not least, because, you know, I tell people all the time, if you have a business and you are not making money, you have a hobby, right? So you have to have an accounting tool that's going to help you. So our Sage Cloud accounting software has been, for me, like one of the things that have helped me to kind of get my money in order, get my money mindset together, and help my financials stay on point. And that's something that we really push for women, you know, to know your business inside and out, know what's going on behind the business and not just what's happening in front with the brand.
It's so important because quite often we lean on, you know, creating the product and pushing our businesses forward, but then, oh God, I forgot to send that invoice, or I forgot to do this. But actually having the tools there to help you is just incredibly important. And Dr. Cameka, I'm afraid we come to the end of our time together. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story, and I'm sure our audience has done too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Caroline. This has been incredible, and congratulations to the Lightning 50 and the work that you all are doing. I'm excited to continue to communicate and just, you know, collaborate together and just inspire, you know, more women and entrepreneurs. So thank you for having me.
It's fantastic to hear. And out there to all of our audience, a huge thank you for joining us to hear Cameka's fantastic story and to champion women this International Women's Day. Make sure you catch the rest of the episodes on the Lightning 50 e-commerce growth hacking podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. And until then, goodbye.